Are we live on the recording?
Yeah.
Now that we're live, I will go ahead and call to order the City Council meeting of Tuesday, April 14th. I apologize for the slight delay, some late developments I was printing off and getting from the printer. If you would all please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's go ahead and make it official. Get into business.
Put on your uniform.
All right, could I start with a roll call, please?
Westwood?
Here.
Battles?
Here.
Daniel? Here. Davis?
Here.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Stupin? Here.
All right, so we have a full board tonight. All right, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second. All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Ronnie, a second from, I'm going to go, who was first? Councilmember Daniels was second? So we'll go with Councilmember Daniels. Discussion at the table, I will add that I don't think we have anything that's a surprise. We're still, most of our work is in the work portion of the meeting at this juncture, so. Hearing none, can we get official with the roll call, please?
Battles?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Stupin? Yes.
All right, 6-0, motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 24th.
I move to approve the minutes of March 24th.
I'll second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Root, a second from Councilmember Tupin. Any discussion at the table? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Battles?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Stupin? Yes.
6-0, motion passes. I will entertain a motion for warrants payable and prefer it be from one of the individuals who signed off on warrants.
I move to approve warrants payable in the amount of $183,738.88.
And I will second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Tupin. Would one of those individuals involved with the signing warrants like to comment, or?
You know, that's really a relatively low amount for the city on a monthly basis. That's probably one of the lower ones that I've seen. They were just basic, normal bills. Republic Services was $48,000. Looks like our loader came in for Public Works for $14,285. I think it was the plow, the loader plow, the plow that goes on the loader. I'm sorry. I know that he was buying some attachments for it, and so one of those came in. So other than that, they're just, Lonnie, is there anything you want to comment on?
No,
It looks pretty.
There was a $30,000 payment for something, that I want to say was streets related or water related.
There's the Great West Engineering was $36,000.
That's it.
And that included $21,000 for the Rocky Fort Bank stabilization.
So that is one question. Of that time, how much of that is project-specific business and how much of that is, I noticed that there is a large portion of that for zoning, or a substantial portion, I don't know, maybe.
So the engineering portion of that related to the bank stabilization is money that we will get reimbursed for from the FEMA funding on that project.
We paid WWC for our contract planning, if that's what you're asking, $5,599 last month.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussions at the table or questions? Just a reminder that those are available to the public. They are located just inside the front door. There's a Publix folder there, and so those are always available. We do those once a month at the beginning of the month. So those are always available for review. And if you have any questions, staff is generally available to help with those questions, or you're certainly welcome to reach out to your council member, and they can chase down and ask those questions as well. So, all right, thank you. Any other discussion at the table? Can we go ahead and get a roll call on that, please?
Battles?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Stupin?
Yes.
6-0, the motion passes. All right, mayor's comments. A couple of announcements, and I'll try to go, and hopefully I haven't messed up the order too much as I've added things. We are entering that season which we lovingly call construction season around here. So there's actually going to be several projects this year. We've got stormwater, we've got water, we've got sewer, we've got streets. If you go onto the city website and you go to the bottom of that and click on the news tab and then go into current projects and initiatives, you will see an individual tab under there for each of the individual projects, and we will continue to post and update information about timelines and where that's going to be impacted by construction. Having said that, they also, when they go into a certain area, they go through and leave flyers and let everybody know that they're going to be working, particularly if there's businesses or if it's going to be a significant impact to folks. But at the same time, you'll be able to monitor all of those projects that are online, okay? Also on there, by the way, is the application for the sidewalk program. We now have 4 applications that have been turned in. I'm aware of at least a couple more that are in process because I've had questions and pointed to that, and hopefully you guys are hearing about it.
Great.
I have a very sincere goal that we use up all $50,000 of that money this year. That would be a success, in my opinion. If there was, like I said, when it comes up for discussion in the resort tax meeting, I'd like to be able to have it been a program that was taken advantage of, and our city is better for it. On April 30th, so we will have another meeting before then, and I'll announce it then too, but on April 30th from 5:30 to 7 at the Roosevelt, there is going to be a meeting on the Urban Renewal District. This is specifically the urban renewal area on the north end of town. What the primary focus of this meeting is, we are working with Beartooth RC&D, which is a non-city entity, but they come in and help with projects like reclaiming Rocky Fork or Eagles Nest or the old hospital. They come in and have access to funding sources, and they work with Kansas State University and working with the Urban Renewal Committee here in town, and then also with planning. They have put together some visioning exercises of some things that north area could look like to hopefully kind of get the juices flowing. It's not a mandate, it's not a dictation. It is here are some ideas about what could be done with that area. It could result in the planning board making some changes to zoning to accommodate if they like those ideas. It's important to note that they are not a governing body. They are not a decision-making body. That remains with this council, all of those decisions. At the last meeting, they came and said, hey, we'd like to throw some ideas out for what could be done down at the Rocky Fork property as well. And they had an added bonus that they thought that would get maybe generate some more attention and get people there to town. And it's kind of nice because it's the 2 bookends at the ends of town to look at. There was, and I think it's unfortunate, but I've addressed it, now we have to deal with what's out there. There was a flyer that went out that made it sound like the Rocky Fork was the main event. It emphasized the Rocky Fork, and there was a concern. I had a couple people, including council members, reach out to me that had a concern that by highlighting the Rocky Fork, people in the urban renewal may think we were trying to hide and shield, and so they wouldn't go to the event because they were interested in the urban renewal district. So I've made a very concerted effort to say it is about the urban renewal district. Please come to that, and so that they're available. But there will also be a presentation on stuff at the Rocky Fork, and it may be that one is even a little bit more long in presentation, just because people will probably get excited about that one. But it is. I just wanted to clarify. It's not really a city meeting. It does include the urban renewal. It is not a decision-making body. It will all be just ideas that come before planning board and ultimately city council. And you guys are still the governing body who will make decisions related to that. But that is 4:30 from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. Any questions or comments on that? All right. Couple of updates regarding police-related grants. There was a congressional grant that you will recall that we submitted an application to apply, which is just we wanted permission to move forward. I had shared that I didn't have real high hopes of that, given that we had already received the fire district one. they wrote back and told us it was a lovely grant, please apply next year, but don't apply this year. And so that was not unanticipated. We have currently drafted that $50,000 that I anticipate will be proposed in the budget from resort tax for a PER on what that building can look like. Again, that's just currently roughly drafted for in the resort tax budget. I anticipate we will still be asking for that and basically strengthening our application for future years. The second grant I wanted to give an update to, and I may have already done this, and I apologize if I did, but just to make sure we're all clear on it, the SRO grant, the School Resource Officer grant that we applied for required an MOU with the school district in order to get that grant. When the school district said they were not interested and they were going to basically take their own course, we reached out and were told initially you can use that for a regular police officer position. And so we were said, yes, we're interested in doing that. At which point they said, oh, no, we misspoke. You can convert a regular officer to an SRO officer. You can't convert an SRO officer grant into a regular police officer grant. However, you still have just a little under a year and a half to basically establish an MOU with the school district to get that grant. There is a level of effort required from staff to keep that possibility alive. It's about 3 to 5 hours every 6 months that Danae puts in to do that. With that in mind, so I asked a couple questions. Danae, what is the level of effort? And then I reached out and had a conversation with Superintendent Fitzgerald and said, in order for us to utilize that officer, we have to have an MOU in place with the school district. Do you see that it's worth putting forth the 3 to 5 hours every 6 months? And his response was yes. So that does not mean that it's a full-time SRO officer. So this may be how we address the additional officer request still, whether that be 6 or 8 hours. We just have to have some sort of an officer who fulfills some sort of an SRO responsibility with the school district. His feedback is it was primarily the high school that was interested in it of the different schools. So with that in mind, Danae had already done the effort this time around, but I have relayed on that I anticipate we will be doing that, and then I'll be working with the school district and with Chief Schrock to basically get an MOU in place to move forward with that.
Would it
Councilmember
be wise
Ruth.
to get more than one opinion about going forward in Fitzgerald's?
Well, it's the whole board, so he takes it to the board.
He would take it to the board.
He does take it to the board. So that's the equivalent of somebody coming to me and asking a question, and I say I will take it to the council and get council's opinion. Okay. So his role is very similar to mine. He manages everything in the corral, but they set the fences. So very similar to the role I play in the city. You guys set the fences, and I just manage the stuff inside the corral.
I thought they hired.
So they have hired a part-time individual who has currently some custodial roles, but has a past law enforcement.
Okay.
And they're using that to kind of try on the role and see what they want to do.
Okay.
But their goal from the very get-go, and I was very pointed in my questions, is if there were people who were adamantly opposed to an SRO because I had heard that information secondhand, he said, no, I don't think that's the case. I think this is, and even in his job description, part of his job description is to transition that position into a school resource officer of some level, and we don't know what that amount is.
Okay.
Now, what is different in the discussions going forward is if we take advantage of this grant, we're in a weak spot of saying you get 25% of the time, you pay for 25% of the resource, because in a worst case scenario, we may just end up giving it to them because we get all of the grant funding to do that. So we may be more willing to give away stuff than what I would have ideally liked to be. Councilmember Rood?
I would like more information on this person, about what he or she is doing there.
The student they have?
Yeah, whoever they've hired for this, I think it's within our purview to know what, if we're going to get involved again, to know what this person, who this person is, and what his training is, and what his capabilities are.
And I would argue that at this point, that person doesn't involve us. I would say go to the school board meetings and ask questions there.
Well, within a year and a half, as you said, it might...
We wouldn't be hiring that person. We would still be making our decision. That person's job is to work with and better integrate with the police department and do a handoff. So the person they've hired right now, we're hands off. We have no involvement whatsoever.
Don't you wanna know what the training is?
In the school newsletter, they named the person and they said that he would be going to school to get his certificate.
And he is going to get, but like I said, but it doesn't involve the city at all.
Yeah.
It involves the school.
This grant fund would fund a City of Red Lodge police
This
officer.
would be
that will be a school
yes.
resource officer
I apologize.
from the City of Red Lodge.
Yeah, so this grant is for one that we are involved with, which is a position we very much have a say in, because this body would approve moving forward with that. Okay. Any other questions on that topic before I move on?
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, so that's the two police-related things. The other question, which really doesn't involve us, but I know there's a high level of public interest, is the county building structure that is now no longer there by the post office. So there's a lot of questions on that. My understanding from reaching out and talking to the commissioners is they have leveled the field, they are planting, they are seeding, because they do not have the money to go forward with building it's kind of a stages, and you go stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So they've acquired the land, they have no immediate timeline or plans of when they're going to build on it. So for now, they're seeding the part that is not parking lot. They will go back to using the parking lot as a parking lot, and the rest will be seeded. I have asked them to keep us posted if they would be interested in disposing of that piece of property. We did have last year's budget. You recall I had $300,000 kind of earmarked for land acquisition. I thought, what a lovely little spot in the middle of downtown. We could maybe put an ice rink or something there. So I have approached them and said, if you do decide you want to be rid of that, certainly let us know at the city, and so we can have that conversation. I didn't get any nibbles, but I threw it out on the water.
Early yet.
Yeah. So on that, the ice rink status, just to give everybody an update on that, there is going to be an RFP, request for proposal, that is being prepared by Red Lodge Ice, and I believe Mike is maybe involved in helping develop that. He will absolutely be involved with signing off on it before it goes out. And the purpose of that is to evaluate the sites, and we did specifically call out Lions Park and also the site at the top of Brewery Hill. And again, the whole goal there is to come back with real cost impacts, estimates, what it takes to build, to maintain, and to make a recommendation. And that will basically position council to have real information when they make that decision. We will announce when that RFP is going out. In the resolution we passed, we also said what representation we'll have on the selection committee, and the city has a presence there. Then there's going to be a kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting will be with the winner of the RFP, and that's basically going to be a public works and planner led meeting. Having said that, the standing committee is working on some parameters about how to make that meeting available for public observation and involvement. That's still developing. Once that does go out to the RF for the PER process, there are public meetings as part of that process by definition, so those will very much be out there and open. And then ultimately they'll turn those results into the city. So just kind of where we are, the RFP has not gone out yet, but here's still the steps that are lined out between now and then. Okay. This Wednesday, switching to the trail discussion, the Parks Board is going to have a special meeting Wednesday at 5:30. They are going to meet here briefly, and then they are going to head up to, I'm going to call it 8th and Word, and then a little bit west of that up to the little triangle, and they are going to go look at some of the trails and different properties that are up there. Again, I will clarify whether the city moves forward in accepting a donation is ultimately this board's purview, this council. And so Parks Board is doing some research so that they can make a recommendation that they feel good about when they relay that on to, it is a notice meeting, so if anybody from council is able and willing to go, if you want to go on a field trip and look at that, as well anybody from the public, you're welcome to go attend that. You could either meet here at 5:30 or be up there at 5:35, 5:40 and go on that field trip. I did meet with the adjacent landowners this morning and had a meeting. It turns out this is a complex issue, as many things are. The property lines, and where people thought there were right-of-ways and where people thought fences, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, and there's all sorts of things up there that do not match the GPS coordinates. And so I anticipate that at some point in the future, they will probably end up coming to the council and asking for what's called an encroachment agreement. Those who've been on council for a while or have paid attention, there's a whole bunch of sheds down by Finn Park on the other side of the road that we have an encroachment agreement that basically says, your shed's on city land, we'll let it ride for now. If the shed burns down, you don't get to rebuild it, it reverts back to. So I think they're gonna come, and ultimately that will be a council decision to do that. But it's interesting to me that there's a right-of-way that, well, let me rephrase it. There was a perceived right-of-way that we used to plow and everything back there that also isn't on the paperwork. To me, I look at it and say, these things are all related. We can kind of make this all work out. But that's just to give you a heads up as you go to that meeting. There's 2 or 3 moving pieces here, all of which will come to council for approval and action before they go. So if you hear to the contrary or decisions are going on, that's not the case. The other kind of narrative that I would like to just comment on, the landowners assured me today that it wasn't them, but I have heard narratives that basically say this land is being donated despite a failed transaction that happened in the area. I would like to put my 2 cents in that I can say with a high level of certainty, no, it didn't, because this land was being talked about being donated before I came on as mayor, so it predates the presumed issue by a couple of years. So I just want to squash that if that's out there at all.
I'd like to say something about that. There's also another location we're gonna look at tomorrow night at 12th and Adams. I don't think we have permission to get on the lower, we'll probably might access from the north or just look at it from the street. But also I've read a lot of letters pro and con for the trail, and if anyone talks to people who are concerned, it's gonna be a long process because of the complications, and but it's not gonna be over soon.
Yeah.
And so just
and
tell
we will
people
get
that
proper vetting.
we're all for it, we love it, but it's complicated.
And I will add, like I said, that they're not mutually exclusive. I was listening into that Parks meeting remotely, and there was another landowner who talked about they would donate the land. I was like, great, because if we have a couple of different trails, that's going to decrease the amount of traffic on any one of them by design. So.
Well, I'm just hoping for one. But anyway, just.
So, well, you are a member of the board that will get to make that decision.
Can't wait.
Public Works, I already mentioned that we've got the website updates, the times that'll be there. Mike is not here this week. A lot of you will remember the bank reconstruction project we did out on 8th and 9th. It turned out all the government agencies who give away the money and approving and everything looked at all the projects in the West, and that project was selected as the bestest of the bestest. And so Mike is down in Jackson accepting an award on behalf of the city of Red Lodge for those. So I'm glad that that's getting recognized. And somebody asked if there was a cash prize involved. The answer is no, to the best of my knowledge. But having said that, we have a bank reconstruction coming up on the Rocky Fork property, and we're utilizing the same people, and I'm hoping that it pays dividends as far as getting approvals and timely responses on stuff, because we have already recognized that we're doing it right and well. So anyway, congratulations to Mike and those involved in that process. Kind of related to that, some of you may have seen in the papers, FEMA has re-released some BRIC funding, which is the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, which is the source of the funding we use to acquire the Rocky Fork. The answer is yes. The day that was released, I got a call from WWC, and have also since had conversations with Sean, and so we are back into discussions and trying to move the Eagle's Nest acquisition forward. So it's not done, but we are pursuing that, and I anticipate there will come a point that comes to council for involvement, because anytime there's any sort of an obligation from a city standpoint, that's something that will come to council. Fingers crossed, and we'll go that way. All right. Just kind of another heads up. In July, Jeff Warner, who's our wastewater superintendent, and has reached the ripe old age of 72, has announced that he is going to retire after 18 years. So I anticipate we will, as that gets closer, we will bring him in and give him a plaque and a thank you for his service. Just kind of a heads up if you hear that. So there will be a position opening up. Right now, there are some positions opening up internally, and the way our contracts are written, as we open up a position, it's available first right of refusal basically to people in the department. So I suspect what's probably going to happen is somebody in the department is going to backfill that position, somebody will backfill that person, and then we'll have a position open. But just by way of information, that's coming, and we'll be advertising. We might even be hiring that person prior to having a vacancy, just so we don't have holes in the system. All right, I think the other stuff will come up during the work session. Anything else from the table that was homework for me? All right, having said that, I will tell you there's still a lot of other things that we are working on. You will notice in the work session, we do not have the rodeo MOU on there specifically, but so I'm working on some changes there, and there's 2 or 3 other things, but so like I said, we're about to the point where the stuff's gonna start moving from the work session to the top of the session. So, all right, with that, let me go ahead and close and the mayor's comments. And what we do is we open up to public comment. This is actually the first of a couple of different public comment periods we will have. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on anything within the council's purview. You'll have 3 minutes. I'm turning on this fancy little timer that keeps track of that. As soon as I have that on, there we go. All right. So with that, I'm going to, and then there's one at the end of the meeting as well. There will be another opportunity for public comment. And why we don't have any action items on the agenda tonight that will be open for public comment, I will just add that we always do that on a per agenda item as well. So you have multiple times the opportunity. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open public comment. And as traditionally we do, I look to the room first. The rules are on the back. The short version is step to the front of the room, state your name for the record, and if you're with an organization, represent that, and then you have 3 minutes, which are yours. I'm looking in the room and seeing no jumping activity. I'm looking to online. I'm looking either for hands raised or people coming off mute. Call for public comment twice. And a third call for public comment. And seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the first period of public comment. Again, there will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for that.
Excuse me, Mayor, but is it possible to scroll I can only see Angela and Angie's names. Is it possible to see other people?
It can be done from that machine. I have a longer list, so I can be looking at all of them. What's happening over on that machine is they do their best to balance it, so we could see written comments at the top.
How can you read that?
That's fine.
So, like I said, that's why I have a second one up here, just so I can kind of monitor that. And Lonnie also has a secondary one that she can monitor it.
I think it'd be nice to know who's listening to the meeting. I'm just saying that.
Okay.
I think it's within our purview to know who's here.
Well,
like there's no curtain.
Yeah.
So the problem we have with that, I can tell you that C is listening to the meeting.
I know who C
and
is.
iPhone is listening to the meeting.
Oh.
So there's still somewhat of a limited. So
I know, I understand that, and it's always been that way. People are they hate to do it. I don't know.
and Lonnie, we are pinned to this one on the camera, right? And there's a reason we do the pinning for the camera. That's for security of our video, because there's people that are bored that like to hijack meetings. Members are welcome to come and join the meeting as long as you don't join sound, so you can do that, or I can let you look at mine too. But when there's 30 or 50 people show up, it changes. All right, any other comments from the table?
Not yet.
That's fair. All right, moving on to the action portion of our agenda. We have some board positions. So we have 2 positions on the resort tax board that were open. We had Tom Coons, whose position expired in February, and he, just so that council is aware, whenever we have people on boards, I basically send out a letter to the people in those positions and ask if they are interested. In this case, Tom indicated that yes, he was interested and willing to serve on the resort tax board again. Brent Moore indicated that he is not, so what happened is I ran an ad in the paper to get responses and held off from doing any appointments until we get there, until we had received applicants. We received an applicant from Rod Bastian, who you all have that letter in the packet, and Rod was very much instrumental in the formation of the resort tax in this community. So the short version is, according to the ordinance, what we have is a 2-year appointment, and the mayor appoints 3 members, and council appoints 2 members, as well as the city council, who is a non-voting member, and you'll all recall we appointed Jody to that again. So we have 2 positions, 2 applicants. One of them was a mayoral position. One of them is a council position. So what I'd like to do is I would like to first offer for council to make recommendations as to who they would like to fill that council position.
I move to recommend Rod Bastian.
I have second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin and a second from Councilmember Rude to use the council pick to nominate Rod Bastian, who would be filling the position of Brent Moore, which coincidentally was the council pick last time. Any discussion at the table?
I think Rod will be a great addition
Yeah.
to.
We are all
because-
blessed with his presence at most meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
He's the most informed citizen in,
Red Lodge,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, hold on. There's a couple of people there that are challenging for that position now.
again, there's quite a few, but again, Rod is a great
But-
addition.
But he's also a great devil's advocate. He asks the tough questions, and he.
All right, and like I said, he was an instrumental part of the resort tax. He was here when it failed and then when it succeeded.
Yeah.
So any other discussion at the table? All right, hearing none, I would like to call for a roll call vote on on Rod Bastian being the council appointment to the resort tax.
Rattle?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Browning?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
6-0, the motion passes. All right, the second position is a mayoral appointment held by Tom Coons, and I would move to reappoint Tom to that position.
I move to approve the mayoral appointment of Tom Coons to the resort tax.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning and a second from Councilmember Tupin. Discussion at the table.
He's been on the resort tax committee as long as I've been there. We were, all in Jeremy was there, with Tim Weimer, and we worked really hard back in, I think, 2018-19 to gather public information through a survey, educate the public so that we could get it renewed, because there was a real chance back then that it wasn't going to be renewed and we might have lost it because people didn't understand how it was being spent. It was all being put underground. And Tom has been a great leader for our board. He has really, his contributions are his financial background, his business leadership, being in charge of the Red Lodge Fire Department. He's just a great leader overall. We really appreciate his ability to take the numbers and make them so that they're easily understood with graphs and spreadsheets. And he's also a big advocate for public feedback through the surveys and how people have asked for it to be spent, even though there's pushes from the city as a whole to spend it on things that public isn't really excited about spending it on. And we just did a survey at our next resort tax meeting. We will find out if the public sentiment has changed from 5 years ago. So.
Okay, other feedback from the table? Councilmember Rood?
I'm gonna vote for Tom, but I agree with a lot of people that Tom has a lot of fingers in a lot of pots. I like Tom, but I guess the good part about this, public, not an outcry, but is that more people are coming to the resort tax meetings and getting involved and getting smart about the resort tax. So, while I will vote for Tom, I like Tom. But I share a lot of concerns about the fingers and all of it. So that's all I want to say.
Councilmember
Yeah.
Tupin?
I think that Tom is great in that because he has fingers in so many pots. It also helps keep him very informed with what's on the pulse, so that's kind of where I play the other side of that. But again, I think that Tom has been a great leader in this community, and is because of his involvement with so many things, I think that he might be the only one that knows more than Rod Bastian. So that's
Not sure about that.
no, having two of the most, but having some of the more dedicated people across the board in that board is very beneficial, I think, for the community as a whole.
And I will share that in my conversations, that Tom has an interest in a plan of succession to backfill him so that he doesn't have to step in and wear so many hats in our community. And one of the challenges is finding somebody who has that level of expertise and dedication. And I'll share a secret thought that I hope that I think Rod is one of the few people that is qualified to potentially step into that. So I like where we're going with both of these appointments, so.
Well, I'd also say that I like sunshine anywhere, and this predicament of this has brought a lot of sunshine to the resort tax, and that nothing bad can happen from that.
Okay. Any other comments at the table? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Bose,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ronnie, yes.
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
6-0, the motion passes. Thank you, and that completes the action portion of this meeting. So,
That's the only
no.
word you need.
So, yeah, so there is another, board position that is available, that is a mayoral position. But it will be in this week's paper on Thursday, an opening for the airport board. So of the two members that were involved, I had one member who indicated yes, and another member who was humming and hawing and never got a firm commitment, so we ran an ad in the paper. And so that will be one that I will put off until the next meeting. It will go, and we will review the little spreadsheet and all the little yellow marks and try to get people to respond. Again, like I said, this resort tax one has been out there for several weeks, and the short version is we had 2 applicants apply for 2 positions, so. Okay?
Great.
So that'll be next time. I'll just give a heads up that there is a position for the airport board, that's there. Currently, we still only have, 2 people, under the current agreement at the airport interlocal. In our proposed discussion that the city council prepared a couple of years ago and got forth in council, they have asked for 3. And that, last I heard, is a semi-sticking point, for the county. I'm hoping that we will have that resolved and have that in front of this board for discussion very, very soon.
So
But
like next year or the year after?
I have, the meeting request has been placed out to get the involved people into a room to have a discussion, and they have just not responded yet. So. Cool. Two of those people are at this table, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that, what we'll do is we'll move on to the work session. So this is an opportunity for the standing committees to bring forth the projects that they are working on, and to borrow Councilmember Rood's comments, to have those discussions openly in the sunshine, and we still can't eliminate the possibility that people may say that we're not doing things openly, but we can sure do our darndest to make sure it doesn't have any merit when they do make that claim. So this is our effort to do that. So with that, we will start out with public health and safety. And with that, I will look to Committee Chair Daniels to kind of lead us through what public health and safety is working on.
Okay. trying to keep it all sunshine now.
No, the sunshine is just that we're doing it out in the open. It doesn't mean it's always happy.
I brought it back from my vacation, I'll go with that. So, as you saw, I mean, Mayor touched on most of the stuff with the grant monies that we were discussing. Stock was not available at our meeting, but in the packet, he has listed all of his, the printouts for those months. Looked pretty small, uneventful. Again, summer's around the corner, so I'm sure that'll have an uptick. We did go over some of our traffic sign request process, and it looks like, Public Works, or Mike Maples, is working on that for us. The mayor has also informed us of another signage that he's going to be looking into for aircraft. Ann is laughing at us because she wanted her sign. Here's your sign.
I might get my sign.
You might get your sign. We did go over some of our priorities and projects and the timeline that the previous chair, Sandy, had presented with us, and it's nice to go through it and be able to check a lot of it off the list. So, other than that, did I miss anything?
Probably the big thing that I would add, which we've kind of mentioned at a council meeting as a whole, is Mike is finalizing, as part of his budget request for next year, some additional equipment that'll help us with the traffic studies and how much usage is getting done that we can factor into putting in speed limit signs or stop signs and stuff. So that will manifest itself in the form of the budget ask when that comes forth from Mike. Okay. And the other thing, just kind of a casual notice, that the speed feedback signs that we have, the vehicle feedback signs is what they're called. We have 2 on the south end of town. We have 1 on the north end of town. So there's 2, the 25's ready to come in, and coming down the canyon, you hit a 35 down kind of by the LDS Church. We have a 4th sign, which is going down by the hospital. We did not put it up in the winter because we did not want it to become damaged from the hordes of snow that they get flipped up at the snow plows going very, very quickly. I deemed this past the danger window.
Oh, well, now you did.
Will you take it down then next week?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so likely is we'll take it down during the winter and then put it up in the summer. So it takes a couple hours at the beginning and end, but that helps slow traffic down coming into town a lot sooner than when they get all the way in, because the roundabout does a fair job of helping slow people down too. Any other questions for public health and safety from council? Thank you, Committee Chair Daniels. Next, we will go to admin and finance, and for that, we'll go to Committee Chair Ronning.
Okay. Well, as you can see on our main agenda here, we had a great discussion of annexation into the Red Lodge Fire District. And do you want to go away and pass those out?
I'm gonna hand some stuff. You go ahead and do your introduction, and there's been a couple of pieces of paperwork that have come in late today as a response to yesterday's meeting. I'm just handing this out to council by way of information. We'll include it in the packet I can do it that way, yep.
One by one.
But go ahead and give your
Okay.
presentation, and there's 4, including one for Ronnie, if you want to take one and hand it down.
Okay, if you, as everyone on council should know by now, in our budget, we contract with Red Lodge Rural Fire Department for our fire services. And right now, we're paying 28 mills out of our general fund to pay for that. And as everyone hopefully agrees, paying for something on a mill's base is really not sustainable. As the value of a mill goes up, the amount of mills that we can collect for property taxes goes down, and so it becomes a larger and larger percentage of our property taxes are going out of our general fund are going to pay for that contract. So number one, we were looking for a way to get that so it's not a mills-based payment anymore. And one of the things that we can do is ask for annexation into Red Lodge Rural Fire Department. And as hopefully, since we've talked about this multiple times, everyone knows it's not a vote. It doesn't go, before the public as a vote. It's a petition. And it has to be 40% of the property owners in the city limits of Red Lodge that equal 40% of the value. And if we meet those, it has to be both of those. It can't just be one or the other. It has to be both of those. Then we would be able to, we would pass a resolution as city council saying we would accept that petition result, and we would allow us to annex into the Red Lodge Rural Fire Department. And then I believe the county would also have to accept that annexation.
As with the fire district.
As with the fire district.
If, can I interject from that point?
Yes, of course, please.
So what was in the packet was actually a resolution for accepting the petition. So we have since gotten some feedback from our attorney, and that's the one that I'm handing about, and his recommendation was that the council resolution doesn't happen until after the signatures are obtained, because basically what we're doing is we're accepting those petition results and signing off on it. Having said that, in council discussions, there has been a feel that since council is behind this and pushing that and going forward, that council needed to do something up front. So what I have requested, and I haven't had a chance to read this yet, this just came in today, is how would we do that as a resolution of intent? And so that's basically what I'd like to do is next time up for action, I'd like to be able to move a resolution of intent that says, hey, we're behind it and where we're going. And I'm not saying this wording is final and done, but it's a resolution that says, we know this is coming, even though we're not accepting the petition that hasn't happened yet, but we are backing it, we are behind it. And then what happens is we work jointly with the fire department or however else we want to solicit and get this out. I think some of the discussion is that initially we would do a mail out to everybody. And as Council President Ronning indicated, this is a little different because this one is not tied to voter rolls. This is tied to property ownership. So that when you get those petitions, it has to represent at least, pick one from column A and one from column B. It has to represent at least 40% of the owners, and it has to represent at least 40% of the property value. So basically the people that are paying the taxes that go there. And it's unique because we have a lot of people who have businesses in town who don't live in town, but they own properties in town and pay taxes in town, and so they would have an input on this as well.
Another question. Mm-hmm. Everyone who is a property owner in town will get to vote. And then you compile that and take 40% of...
So it's not a vote. Hopefully we reach out and we're looking for a response from 40% of them.
And how are they going to respond?
Yes, sign me up.
Or no, I don't want to.
Or I'm just not going to respond. I'm just not going to respond. And then the step two would be going door to door and kind of asking and saying, hey, if you have questions, how can we help understand and ask for that? So like I said, it's not a vote process. It is a petition process. And then once we have 40% of those signatures, they bring those to the governing body, AKA you guys, and you say, we have heard the petition, we give our blessing, move forward. Then the councilors give their permission, and then it goes on. So this is not, it doesn't go to the ballot ever. It goes to the people that are paying those taxes.
So it will be a property tax increase of 21.81 mils, which equals right now about $230,000. And I think, Jeremy, you had kind of the figures of what it was on our last property tax bill. It's similar to what you're paying for that ambulance district.
It is similar to the ambulance district, yeah.
So whatever individual property is, if they look at what they paid for the ambulance district last year, that's what they're looking forward to. Now, the trick here, and when I was on council, this kind of came up, but it was being presented as the city's not raising your taxes. And it is true that the city portion of your taxes would not go up. But what happened is you would have a new line item that shows up for the fire district.
So
the reasons I can offer that I like this approach is it solves a couple of different problems. One, municipalities across Montana have lost 25% of their purchasing power over the last 25 years, just because we only get to collect how much we collected last year plus 1/2 the rate of inflation over the last 3 years. So it's built in that we don't have money to do those services. Right now, 100% of our taxes basically goes to safety. Police and fire is where all of our property taxes go to. The other thing that I don't like is being stuck as the middleman. The cost of police protection goes up, the cost of fire protection goes up. I like the idea of if the fire department thinks they need more money to provide a higher level of service or to maintain a level of service, I want them to be able to go directly to the voters and present their case and do that rather than come to the city and we have no means or no ability. We're kind of in the middleman. We don't have a say in it. We're just kind of stuck. And I think they should be able to go to the voters and ask for, just like the ambulance district did a couple of years ago. They said, we need more money, and they were able to go and make their case to the voters. The first time they didn't make their case, the second time they did. I also, my personal opinion, and it's one of those areas where me and the fire chief are allowed to disagree. Right now, we are paying 28 mills for a service that the rest of the fire district is paying 21 mills for.
21.81.
Pardon?
21.81.
21.81. And I think we ought to all be paying the same rate for the services. And so this kind of addresses that. And then the other one is that 28 mills as a percentage of our budget is something that is tied to something that is completely out of all of our controls. As property values go up, your taxes don't go up proportionately because your property values went up. But what happens is the equation is, here's how much your taxes were last year, here's how much you get, which is basically 1/2 the rate of inflation plus new growth, but 1/2 the rate of inflation over the last 3 years. Then what they do is say, how many mills does that take? A mill is just a fancy word for 1/1000th of 1% of the value.
Oh, that's what it is.
But what happens is, they then say, how many mills does it take to get that number of dollars? And so if you watch the number of mills we use, it varies drastically. And so in some years, when you're tied to 28 mills, well, 28 mills is 20% of the property taxes one year and 33% of the property taxes the next year. That's not sustainable. That's a problem. So the reason that I like this approach is it solves several of those problems. It gets the city back to a level part for budgeting. It takes fire out of our budget. The city would retain those 28 mills, but we would use them to hire a city administrator to make sure we can continue to fund our police department, potentially look at being able to expand that police department by an extra person, whether that's through a grant. And then it gets fire out long-term and independent. So as fire needs money, they can then go to the voters and ask for money. If the city needed additional money, they would go to the voters and ask for money. So that's why I like this approach, because it solves 3 or 4 different problems.
So the second half of that conversation was that the mayor and the fire chief have agreed to sit down and work on our next budget so that it's not 28 mills coming out of our general fund, which is good. Do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit, or you want me to?
You talk. I want to hear from,
Okay.
I want to hear.
Well, you all have a copy of it here. And basically it's a flat amount coming out of general fund of $240,000 because that would be used for helping fund their operations. And 10% of our last year's resort tax, of our 3% resort tax, that they would put into a capital fund because we can use our resort tax for capital expenditures for public safety. And they have agreed to set up an accounting feature so that it is basically a capital only account, so that when we get audited, we can show that paper trail going from our resort tax to their capital expenditure account. And I did, last year we had, I think, 1.4 million in at 3%, so it would be $140,000 out of our resort tax that would go towards capital. And we do currently own a fire truck, the city does, that was from a 2004 fire engine. So this would just be kind of our way of helping contribute to Red Lodge Rural Fire Department and their ability to maintain their aging fleet of fire engines and equipment and things like that. So, yes.
Councilmember Reed, you had a
So many
question?
questions.
Okay.
who is gonna get together, and is it just gonna be Tom and the mayor who get the mills down? I mean, is there somebody?
Well, no, we have to approve it, and that's why you're looking at it. This is what is under discussion right now. So if you have any comments on this, you know, now or at the next meeting.
Well, I'll just keep.
Because we will absolutely, it's city council that has to authorize the mayor signing this. So we need to all understand what's going on. Right now, on a mills base, if the property taxes go up, right, we paid $300,000 last year. It could go up to $400,000. We don't know what the value of a mill is going to be, especially with the changes that are going to happen, starting next year. Our property values in Red Lodge, because we have 30% second homes in Red Lodge, our property values and our mill value could go up substantially. And the 28 mills, I mean, it could jump up to $400,000 or more that we would be paying the fire department if we do not get it out of that 28 mil.
Well,
So
I
that's
think
the real
this is hard for the Red Lodge citizens who lives here all the time. And I'm suspicious of things, and you all can change my mind over the next few weeks, but, you say that you've 25% of your purchasing power, and as Rod pointed out at the meeting, so have we. We've all lost purchasing power. And as the world turns, we're gonna lose more. And so how is this gonna help, the regular citizen? And I'm not talking about the Verbo people who have money to spend and.
Right.
And one other thing I'm suspicious about is, how do I know that this isn't gonna be sent to the rich Verbo people who don't care? I mean, how do I know that? How do we know who's gonna respond? Because the citizens who live here all the time are struggling. But how do I?
It will get sent to every property owner in town. It has to be, 100%.
Okay. So I'm going to bring this back and
I have
address
another
the.
question.
Okay.
I feel like the city loses power and control in this. And tell me I'm wrong, but it's like we lose control. I mean, all of a sudden someone else is dictating to us. Am I wrong?
I think you're exactly backwards on that.
No, can I just speak for a minute?
Yes, please do.
If we used to have our own fire department, and we used to have our own ambulance service. I remember listening, you know, sitting in a couple meetings where they were talking about raising ambulance rates here, you know, and the consolidation and being able to contract with Red Lodge Rural Fire Department helped the city substantially. I mean, literally, we pay $300,000 for fire services, that if we had our own ambulance, if we had our own fire department, it would be taking up just as much budget as the police department is, if not more. I mean, a new fire truck is over $1 million now.
I know.
And so, honestly, I mean, our fire services are very inexpensive, especially compared to cities that have to fund their own service. So being able to consolidate that with Red Lodge Rural Fire Department has been a blessing for Red Lodge, I feel. And we get great service from them. I mean, there was a fire out at 2 Mile Bridge just the other day where if the wind would have been blowing the other direction, you know, it was right in my brother's backyard. It was literally right there, you know, right, I mean, we could have lost that whole subdivision.
We're not debating.
So,
I think the volunteers are, it's a
no, but I mean, I just,
service and exemplary or whatever.
right.
But
Well, this is still negotiable. It's not being dictated to us.
But am I off base that this is hurting the little person?
These are two different things. So I'm just gonna just do a quick Chelsea dumbed-down version summary,
Also,
if that's okay.
Also, we just got two resolutions, one in our packet and one tonight. Are they the same?
No, so the resolution in the packet is a resolution for what we will do after we have 40% petition. It's basically how the council accepts it and moves forward. So it's not a scratch, it's a number 2. Both of them get done. The resolution of intent that we just got today that I handed out is so that council can say, we're moving forward with this. So I'm going to take just a moment and then I'll come back to the table. So right now, the voters have signed off that we can use resort tax to help pay for capital in public safety, meaning we can use it to help pay for, we use it for police cars, for instance, in the fire department. We currently, even though the voters have given us the permission to help pay our obligation, but what we contract out to the police, to the fire department, the voters have given us permission via the resort tax to use that for fire. But the catch is it has to be for capital. Historically, we have not used any of it for capital because we don't have an agreement that addresses that. And so the fire department has said 28 mills is 28 mills, and we don't want to have to necessarily be tied down to using for that. The secondary portion of that is, we've talked about that in essence, if the city goes on and is paying the same rate as anybody else, that means we'll ultimately get to the point we're paying 21.81
Yes.
mills there. While that is a decrease in what city residents are paying for fire, because 21 is less than 28, that also equals a decrease for what the fire department has to do their budget.
Okay, this is all well and good. I'm just saying this is very confusing, and you guys, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but it's so confusing. How are you gonna explain this to the regular person?
That's what they're working on.
That's what we're working on. No, that is the question of the day.
It's huge.
And we're not making any action tonight.
I just had one question. So, because while you guys are all talking and I'm trying to decipher myself this whole thing, pay the district 10% of the 3% resort tax. Is that like where? I'm just curious where the 10%. Like why the 10%? Why is it 10%?
I can offer my best explanation for that. That's the fire chief gambling that resort taxes are going to go up, and that will equal more money for them in the long term. I will push back and say, wait a minute, we're paying 28 mills. Let's just pay what percentage of it is to get to our 28 mills to make up that difference. But that's a discussion that has yet to happen and going forward. The goal here is to this year's budget, I would like to get to the point that we are paying some of that fire obligation, which we still have in place for this year, and it will be this year's budget. I would like to utilize some resort tax to help meet that obligation.
More resort tax.
And the reason is so that our budget balances. And to your point,
didn't you stash away a lot of money for a emergency fund for the resort tax? I remember talking about that last year.
We don't spend all of the resort tax that comes in. But to your point, where I think you're going with that is, if every dollar we spend on fire is a dollar that's not available to be spent on parks or other things in resort tax, each dollar in resort tax can only be spent once also.
Good luck.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, I would just like to see this a little more clearly identified, that the top part, the 240,000 from the city, is for operations. It's just that for all services, but more specified to operations, because on the second part, where it says B, it says personnel and provision of service. It says none of it can go to personnel or ops. So I think just clearly saying this is capital only from resort tax, and this is ops.
And the top part, they may use as capital as well. It's just because of the way the resort tax is written, the stuff, anything that we pay from resort tax has to be able to be documented and proven that it's not going for anything other than capital.
Okay, it's just confusing with the label personnel, and it says it's just for capital.
I was going to say,
one of the things, maybe, that is only the amended paragraph. This is a 6 or 8 page agreement.
Okay, all right.
So
That's
it might be easier if we show the amendment in the agreement.
Okay.
But that is just the simplification of
what I was going to do is just, as I was actually going to ask Tom, if you don't object coming forward, I would like to give council the question to kind of, to ask Tom kind of the questions of where we are. Like I said, this is literally development since yesterday's standing committee meeting, is why you've got 2 new pieces of paper in front of you today. Would you mind coming forward and I'll let people pepper you with questions, or is there anything you would like to add from a high level, or?
Just the first thing for a high level, and I think Councilman Ronnie touched on this, is that it's the city's obligation to provide fire protection, simply, and it's your obligation. State law, and it's your obligation as a council to figure out how to do that the best you can, most efficiently, most effectively, for the best
biggest
cost.
bang for the best buck.
That is what your obligation is to do. And I think if you spend some time, you will find that our organization currently provides very, very high level fire protection at a relatively very, very low cost. The challenge in providing fire protection is that we have 2 sets of costs. Oddly, it's classic operational costs that have seen significant increases, just like everybody else's has, and then capital costs. The challenge currently right now is, and when this agreement was originally compiled, is the city didn't have the capital infrastructure. What had happened is over the years, the city hadn't spent money to invest in capital for fire protection. So when this agreement was originally done, the city was at a capital deficit. And so that's why that mill was set at 28, was because the city recognized that they had not saved capital in order to be able to provide fire protection, which is high. Fire trucks are expensive. Fire gear is expensive. And actually, when this agreement was written, the other stuff wasn't as expensive as it is today. And we've seen exponential increases in things like insurance. And a lot of it is actually insurance, but there's a whole variety of those in terms of workers' comp. And we have to still pay insurance on all our volunteers and all that kind of thing. We operationally, as you may or may not know, we've been struggling with that operational fund. We have eliminated 2 positions in our staff positions. So one of them was an adjustment. So we moved, we eliminated one assistant chief position through attrition. And then when Tim Ryan retired, we moved a part-time office administrative position to a full-time position. So we lost that half-time position. We anticipate, unfortunately, in the budget currently, we have a full-time volunteer coordinator position that was funded by a grant. That grant has expired, and we're going to lose that position as well, likely. And so I don't want there to be some misunderstanding that sometimes maybe is a narrative that, yes, we are very effective at grants, we are very effective at donations, and we provide a very high level of service. But we are actually having to contract the organization currently based on current funding as our expenses go up. Which is very challenging for us. We do a good job of managing it with volunteers, but we do have to be able to replace fire trucks, and that is capitally intensive, and it takes money to do that. Those fire trucks are required to provide fire protection for the city, and the answer to that is if we don't provide that adequately, everybody's insurance will go up. So you either pay the fire department to provide fire protection, or you pay the insurance companies, or you don't get insurance. And that's a challenge that we can't put numbers on, but that's just the way the system works. So it is complicated. It's very complicated. It's horribly complicated. I will say, Ann, though, just to answer your question, and there's political pieces to this, but what our legislature has done is essentially said to second homeowners, your property taxes are going to be double what somebody who lives here's property taxes are going to be. And so as we go into next year and that gets enacted, we saw about a 15% reduction in residential property taxes last year in the city. I have multiple residential properties and calculated it across all of them. We saw a 30% increase in commercial property taxes. When this new piece comes in, it enacts for this next year, what's going to happen is that the second homeowner's taxes are going to go up significantly, but that will relieve the primary residence. So that was what you're asking for is actually what the legislature designed and will be enacted. It is complex and it's hard to understand, and I think most people don't really understand that, but that is what will happen.
The thing that I will add, and it actually seconds your point, and I will extend this comment that I'm going to make to the whole time I was on council too. This is a big deal. I would say this is probably the single most impactful and meaningful thing that has come up while I've been mayor, while I was on council. It's had several false starts that have kind of gone and it's died off because it's hard, because it's icky. But I think we're to the point that we need to fix it and set the city up for success in the future. Just 2 seconds to add to what Tom said. We mentioned about here's the amount of money we get from the state and it goes up by 1/2 the rate of inflation. By the way, that's changed just slightly. The second part of that is who pays that. And Tom has already mentioned that first homeowners, people who live here, are paying a smaller portion of that. So if you picture that big bubble, draw some lines. Who pays what portion of it? What happened last year is the amount of that tax that people who live here 7 months or more pays goes down, and we're gonna continue to see it go down more. Well, the big volume is still the same, so who's paying that? So as our property taxes went down, commercial property taxes went up, so they are paying a bigger portion of that. Additionally, second homes are gonna pay a higher proportion of that. I think if you do the math, and Jeremy, I'll look to you to correct me if I'm wrong here, as I'm listening to Tom explain it, we're asking for this increase at the same time that primary residents are basically saying a decrease, so they're not gonna see a huge impact from it. They're gonna see an offsetting balance to it. Is that a fair statement, Jeremy?
I have a wider comment, but generally speaking, yeah.
Okay. Second homeowners are gonna be paying more because they're paying more of the taxes and they're still gonna get to pay the separate fees for fire. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah.
You've got the floor.
So I wanted to separate the annexation piece from the fire agreement piece. The fire agreement piece solves a more proximate, a more close, more urgent issue, and that's the millage proportion of our general fund. And so with the new homestead things going in, Red Lodge has quite a few second homes. Those being doubling their taxable value will increase the value of a mill.
Which
And
means
so
less mills allotted to us.
Right. So the city, this year it's 92 point something mills. Next year, it'll likely be less than that. So that 28 out of 92 is going to become 28 out of, who knows?
70.
Who knows, right,
Yeah.
70 something. 10 years ago, it was 28 out of 120 something. So it's a problem of the general fund that is solved by this agreement, by defining it by dollars rather than mills and tying it to the limits that it can increase over the years, just like our general fund can. So that, I feel like, is an important distinction. And then the annexation piece is a different conversation, and we can talk about that.
Well, I suggest you guys do a horse and pony show to everybody in town and explain this to them. Because, they need to know. I mean, go to the senior citizens, go to wherever, and have charts and not all this gobbledygook, but show them. Show them what's going on. And like I said, I'm not against it, but it's the normal person is going to go, what? So, but if you can get a slideshow.
I'm thinking of animation at this point.
Yeah.
Well, part of my point is that this doesn't go to voters. We don't need to explain this
This
to every operator.
is a council
This
action.
is something we need to understand.
Yeah.
And I just one quick last comment is that I think it's really important to understand is that it's not, that there's not like some outside entity that's the fire service that benefits, right? The fire department is the community, and it's the community that benefits. And ultimately, we decide on the level of fire protection we want as a community. It's not the fire department wins and the community loses, because the fire department is the community. There's only one purpose for the fire department, and that's to protect the community. There is zero benefit outside of that from the fire department. So this is about what we as a community want, and you guys get to help make that decision, right? So I think and what's the best way to do that? And ultimately, that's what you are elected to do, is to figure out how we do that best. But ultimately, in the end, the benefit is the community.
Right. And I would rather give that money to the fire department up front than the insurance company year after year.
Well, I want to learn, and I want to understand this. And I also know, Tom, do we have to buy new fire trucks?
It's hard to.
The answer to that question is no. So currently, I feel like it is way more expensive to buy used ones than it is to buy new ones. And I'll just give you an example. In 2004, the city purchased a fire truck. They spent we spent $240,000 on that truck. Right now, today, the value of that truck is around $200,000. And so if we were to go rebuy that 20-year-old truck today, we would spend $200,000 to buy that 20-year-old truck. We right now, basic and program, are on a 40-year lifespan on fire trucks. So the truck that we buy today, our expectation is that truck is gonna last for 40 years. So the 20-year-old truck, we still need that truck to work for another 20 years. So when you look at that lifespan, it becomes actually way more expensive to buy the used. So a quality used fire truck right now is somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000. So you might as well buy the $1 million and then have something you buy in today's dollars that is going to then last us for 40 years as opposed to trying
For 20 years.
for 20 years, and now you got to rebuy it at $1.5 million in 20 years or whatever it's going to be.
I think it's a good question.
Yeah, you know, it's an excellent question, and we try to balance that, right?
Yeah.
I do believe with the trucks that we have, that there's, that 40-year lifespan is realistic, and it's worth it for us to spend money to continue to repair those trucks, because that's what's happening right now is our repair costs are going up significantly to operate them. That it is worth it to continue to repair and refurbish those trucks to keep them towards that 40-year lifespan. Originally, if you'd asked me when we got it, I would have told you the lifespan on that truck was 30 years. I think it's going to have to be 40.
Don't necessarily leave. Any other questions? Like I said, this is the beginning of it. Like I said, this is literally the biggest, and in fairness, at some levels, the most complex issue that's come up in my 10 years of being involved in this role of some form or another.
And am I incorrect, that has to be sort of figured by August 9th?
The part, so I would say this part, which is a council-only action, we need to do something with that before we do budget so that we can have a balanced budget. The alternative is we cut positions, and literally the only place we could cut positions would be the police department, because that's all this is going to, is that. I will openly state right now, to me, figure out a dollar amount of what 28 mills equals to, and that's the number we're kind of going toward. The number here from a resort tax, and I've already had a couple council members reach out and say, hey, that math doesn't work out, means that we're paying more. That's a fair statement. I think that's part of the discussion we're still going to be having. The second portion of this is more of a long-term fix. And like I said, I agree that fire costs go up. Quite frankly, if the fire department wants to go to the taxpayers and get more money, I want them to be able to do it. What I don't want them to do is come to us and say, you go get more money from the taxpayers. I want them fighting their own battle.
I would say there's somebody out in this world that his or her job is to make complicated things simple. I would find that person and hire him or her to make a presentation. I mean,
I will do my best.
We have a nationally recognized fire chief in our town who does it doesn't mean it's two-step simple, but it is simpler than it can be.
Okay. I said there's somebody out there who likes to make complicated things simple. It doesn't necessarily Tom. It's somebody we're going to have to pay. And if, you know, why not?
If you can find them in the money to pay for them, I am 100% on board.
We asked ChatGPT.
Mr. Mayor, can I make one more comment too? I just think it's important for the council to understand that this agreement that we're talking about, I sit like the mayor. I'm the executive for the fire department. There is a board that has to approve that on the fire district side as well. So it has, you know, this agreement has not been presented as such to them yet. So it has to be approved by you and it has to be approved by them. I'm just an intermediary that has this discussion. But
this is the first staff that threw out since the standing committee yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. All right, so stay tuned. This is, like I said, this is literally the most meaningful and impactful thing that the city has dealt with in the last 10 years. If you ask, if I were to sit down Lonnie and say, Lonnie, what causes you grief or concern? Right at the top of her list is we've got a budget, we've got to make balance, and it's all going to fire and police. Is that a fair guess, Lonnie? Is that fairly close? Okay.
And, yeah, so.
All right, committee chair Ronnie, was there anything else you discussed among?
Yeah. Well, next on, does anybody else have any more comments on that? Are we good? Okay. So, moving on, transfer of FAA entitlements. This is coming about because we had, money.
Thank you, Tom.
Do you wanna,
I can
When-
explain it, I read about it this morning.
did it? So we had, when we were trying to do, I guess, a master plan up at the airport, and we were not given our designation. Apparently, there's some money out there that the city has to authorize to go to a different airport. If we do not authorize it to go to a different airport in Montana, it just goes back into the big fund. And we are allowed to, the airport board actually would be the ones that choose where it would go. But by releasing this money, and allowing it to be designated to another airport, because we can't use it, then, it would stay in Montana and help another small airport in Montana, is basically what it is. There's no way we can use it, it's not our money, because,
There's $474,000 that has been set aside for Red Lodge Airport if it was adopted into the AIP, the Airport Improvements Program. Because we weren't, it's not eligible for us. If we do nothing, it just goes back to the federal pool and they allocate it. If we choose to have a say in it, we can have a say in it and specify which airport it goes to. Right now, there was actually 2 different airports that have approached the airport board and asked for that money. The second one was actually from the individual who was involved in doing our master plan, who kind of reached out and said, hey, you have money, send it to us, rather than letting it go back to the big pool, not understanding that there was already a location that's in request. In speaking with the city attorney, this is not something that would normally even come to council. It's kind of authorized by, it's just an execution of, yes, you have our blessing to send it to another local airport. However, given that this says airport in it, and since I am a pilot, I have elected, and I think it's the safest thing to do, is to ultimately to bring it to council and say, council, yes, mayor, you have the ability to sign that and send it to another airport in Montana. The reason it is blank right now is because ultimately, like I said, there are 2 airports in that discussion. Once the airport board makes their recommendation, the benefactors of this is the county and also the city. So both of them have to sign off on it to do that. And so what I've done is just included it with the blanks. And then what we'll do is we'll fill in the airport. They make that decision, I think, on the 23rd. So by the time it comes to us, then at that point we would be able to do it. So that's the purpose of why it's in the packet. Councilmember Tupin.
Just a point of clarification, the airport board is making the decision of where to send the money. The money is currently in our bank account, so we have to send.
No, we don't have the money. It's in the federal bank. It's in the federal bank account.
Okay.
And that's basically money
So-
they collect on aviation fuel.
That's fine. I don't care where the money comes from as much as what our purpose is in signing a check, essentially. That's what I'm hearing.
Not signing a check.
So what is the city's role in this?
We
Just
say,
authorizing it.
don't just take it back, give it to another airport in Montana.
Okay, and so why is it coming to the city versus just the airport board?
Because
we have to sign off.
who was going to get this 474 was a combination of the county and the city.
Does the county have to sign off on it?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
in the
That's all I want to
packet,
clarify. That's
yeah,
all
in
you-
the packet, there's a certificate of transferring sponsor for both the county and the city.
Cool.
Councilmember Davis?
How did you say, have we known about this for a long,
Yeah,
since
so
2023?
while they were doing a master study, because the answer might have been yes, they were allocating money every year that had the airport been adopted into the airport improvement programs, this money was being set aside on a yearly basis for us should we become eligible to use it. The answer is we didn't become eligible to use it. So at a certain point in time, it just goes back to them.
Oh,
It looks
okay.
like it was $150,000 a year was allocated.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
2023, there was 24,000. and
Because
then
it happened in the middle of
150,000.
the year.
So it ended up being a total of 474,000 that's been allocated so far. That needs to be either put back into the feds or.
And it's not money that's in our account, it's money
Yeah.
that's in their account. So we're not saying, we're just saying, yes, you have the ability, and I want to say the 2 airports are Stevensville and
Hamilton,
Hamilton.
Raleigh County.
And, yeah, that, is it Rivali, is that the same one? Yeah,
The name of the Hamilton Airport is the Raleigh
yeah,
County.
so it's that, their one airport, I wanna say Stevensville was the other one, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. That's why I left it blank, because if you guys come back and decide which project is the more worthy of it, and we will release the funds to them.
Okay, so when was it determined that we weren't designated?
Last
Why do
year,
they keep
so
growing?
last year, the FAA basically came back to us, and this, and I don't, I don't know if you're on council yet, but basically, they came back and said, we are not going to tell you to shorten your runways in the name of safety. And so the answer is, you're not gonna get into the AIP program.
So just in 2025, we found out.
Is within the last,
Okay.
it's either last year or the year before, and so what happened at that point in time
November
is,
24.
okay, so November of
2024?
'24. And
We
so
knew.
at that point,
Okay.
we went forth and said, why are we continuing to spend money on master study that we've already been told the answer is no? So we stopped spending money. It wasn't our money we were spending, or we were paying a very small portion of it.
Okay.
We stopped money and said, there's no point in finishing this.
Okay, so
Do
now
that.
is the deadline.
And that,
To get
so,
rid of all
so that's,
this money.
and so at that point, we were no longer, that money that continued to be set aside, we knew we weren't gonna get it anymore.
Okay, and what's the process for getting the information out there to the state? I mean, is it just whoever knows that we have this money to donate to them? I'm afraid that there might be,
I believe,
pushback from other counties who may not have known for the
I
airport.
believe what happened is, all of the airports that are working with airport planners are like hawks circling the
Know-
roadkill, and they know where,
Where the.
they know which
Okay.
airports didn't get it, and so they reached out and said, pick us, pick us.
Okay,
And we've had 2 people say, pick us, pick us.
okay.
Initially there was 1 person, and then there was a second, and I don't get involved in that.
So we don't
But I do
publicize
agree,
anything.
no, we don't advertise anything at all.
They just reach out to us for
We,
money. Okay.
and like I said, but the question is, do we agree, yes, we'd like to see it go to Montana rather than just go
Mhm.
back to the Fed and they determine where it goes?
Okay, I just didn't know if there was a process.
No, the airport board will choose.
And I think, well, I think I will offer my 2 cents on that. And there, by the way, there is an airport board meeting on the
23rd.
23rd for anybody who's interested in attending that and watching that. I believe the answer is that they were already in process with one and significantly down the way when somebody else came up and asked for it.
Yeah, how do you
So,
make it fair?
so I think the discussion, there may be a discussion about, let's not back away from what we were already told somebody we would do, or if one is more worthy than the other.
And you can't split it. That wouldn't be beneficial.
I think actually there is a portion of it, so like, if one airport isn't using all of it, I think there is a leftover that does go back. So splitting it may be an option, I don't know, but like I said, I just know that from a city standpoint, the city will have to authorize and say, yep, we sign off on you giving that money that was previously allocated us to another airport within Montana.
Okay, thank you.
Questions on this side of the table? Okay, I anticipate this could be coming for action as soon as next time, based on if they know which airport and how that split is working out. And to your point, it might actually end up be that there's 2 of them if it gets split. That'd be a question that probably comes up at that 23rd meeting.
They have to apply for it and see what the needs are, whatever.
Well, yeah, so in the case of the Hamilton Airport, they have a project that qualifies, they just don't have enough money that's allocated to them to cover it.
Okay.
So they looked around, where's the roadkill that's available that we can use?
Roadkill. I take
Like
that
I said,
roadkill any day.
I think
yeah.
they're all circling around saying, where's the money that we can use, so.
Thank
Apologies
you.
for the, any questions on that?
No.
Okay, council, or committee chair Ronning, anything else you wanted to discuss?
We'll be done with admin and finance, let's move on.
There's a big
That's enough.
section.
Any other questions for admin and finance? They have some big things, all right. With that, let's go to land use and planning, and for that, we'll go to committee chair Tupin.
So we have a few things that are still in waiting, specifically the amendment for Title 8, Chapter 8, use of city-owned land amendment to address the removal of speech and expression. That is on me. I did not write that yet. So we'll keep it short, right? Rodeo MOU, again, we're still waiting on some edits to that as well.
And that's on me, I did not write that yet.
Yep. Red Lodge
I like
Ice,
sunshine.
yeah.
Say what?
I mean, I'll be real transparent, I can do it. Like, Red Lodge Ice Kickoff Meeting Planning, we did have conversations about members of, different boards as well as council that will be in attendance at the kickoff meeting to help clarify, specific concerns brought to those members by the community, and just making sure that they are present, also making sure that there are public records available as well as opportunities for the public to view the meeting, or attend, not necessarily participate. There will be some items that we're gonna go through and, find all of the different concerns that have been sent over the past few months and try and consolidate those down, and then bring those to that kickoff meeting to be sure that if it's something that is appropriate, it will be addressed within that PAR. So when people ask, hey, are we gonna have this answer when we have the opportunity to make a decision, we know that it's being addressed by the professionals in a timely manner. Next conversation that we are having was the donation for the city trail, specifically just kind of referring back to the fact that there will be a tour tomorrow at 5:30 to go see that location, and then really specifically just saying that it is up to the city council to make a determination if we want to accept that donation. It will also be up to the landowner to determine how he wants that donation utilized. There have been some voiced concerns from the community in terms of the wetland area, overall engineering and maintenance of the trail system. So I think after tomorrow, we'll have some enlightening information, specific from pros that make trails on a daily, and I think that will be very helpful. Maybe I'll speak louder for just cover that up. I know. And then we did move on to the process for designating and changing the use of city-owned land. It's a process that we've been working on for about a year, but then realized over the past few months and after having some conversations with planners about things like having a PAR, it made it pretty apparent to us that we would much rather have professionals put together the process for applications for designating and changing the use of city-owned land. We will provide the notes of what we have already developed and what we would like to see included within that plan, very similar to the PAR that's happening, where we'd like to just make sure certain things are recognized. And then when it comes back, we'll have the opportunity to tweak it with a little bit more specific requirements that the council sees fit. So that should help expedite that process substantially, specifically because you'll have professionals who hopefully have a frame of reference and history of doing those types of projects, working on it. And then also we will have the opportunity to actually work on it and see it versus spending 5 minutes a month doing it. Yes, Ann.
Where do you find these professionals?
Well, it is the city planners that we have hired out. And so, we did request from the mayor that we have them work on this. We do have the request that at our next meeting, I believe our next meeting, we will have the Jeremy Badness available to where we can kind of talk with him about this, hash it out, and figure out a plan of action.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other than that, that was what, we actually got out early at land use and planning, or on time, I should say, not
I was gonna
necessarily.
say.
It didn't go an hour over, they're calling that early in land use and planning. Okay,
Any questions?
the only thing that I would add, one of the questions that has come up on the trail was, does a person making a donation to the city have any ability to dictate conditions about that? The answer is yes, but the council has to accept those conditions. And so the more conditions there are, the council has the opportunity to say, terms aren't good for us, and we walk away from that.
Does those conditions pertain only to donated land?
Not,
Or adjacent land?
it could be, there are implications that it could do, that they could make dictations about how adjacent land is kind of there. But again, the more conditions you add, the more complications you add about whether council is going to sign off on it or not. You okay?
Yes. Just
Sorry.
Just,
got
I
over
was
a
gonna say,
cold and-
take my mug so you can.
No, having a
some water.
coughing fit, I apologize.
I apologize, so, all right. All right, any other questions for land use and planning from the rest of the table? All right, hearing none, we will move on to Public Works, and for that, we will go to Committee Chair Ronning. Oh, I'm glad you're back. Although, like I said, if we need to adjourn for 5 minutes, let me know, and we can absolutely do that too.
No, that's okay. As long as I don't talk a lot, but, Resort Tax Services contract, I believe we have a representative here from Republic Services, is that right?
I do.
Yes.
It's not Chad, but we'll take it.
So,
Very next best thing, I
yeah.
promise. I did not prepare anything, 'cause I didn't know how you guys were gonna go about this, so I'll answer any questions I can.
So, do you want me to do it
Yes,
just a high level?
so I don't
So
have to
in your packets, we have back the draft, contract that's there. Some things that I will call out specifically that are within that contract that are differences, from the past is on page, 5, and by 5, I mean it's labeled at the bottom of the general specification, so it's section 1.0.1.5. You will note that we have the ability for 2 different size cans, either the 96 gallon or the 65 gallon. However, it is not a price difference. It's the same price for each, but they can ask for a smaller can if that meets their needs. I will then jump ahead to, and again, I encourage council to read all. I'm just calling out the things that I know are different from the past. On page 11, here's the 2 biggest changes over the past. In 4.13, where it talks about their bear-resistant containers, once they are notified that we have a can that is out of commission, they have 2 business days to fix it, or there's a $50 per day charge after 2 business days to do that. Now, one concern and question that we have is that we currently have 160 cans that have been identified as not functioning. In talking with the vendor of the Kodiak cans, it was our understanding previously that 250 of the cassettes that go in, locking mechanisms, that had our name on it were sent to Republic and had those, but my understanding is those don't necessarily have our name on them. I know Mike is trying to get us trued up to 0 before this contract goes into place, because like I said, we still have a list of 160 non-functioning cans, and the city has offered to help and go out and actually swap out those canisters and stuff, but that is a change in this contract. That they are saying they will supply us with bear-resistant cans, and if they don't, they'll pay for it.
So, let me introduce, if I may.
Okay, please.
So I had.
Will you go ahead and come forward so
sorry.
that the mic will pick you up, and then introduce yourself.
My name
so
is Ryan
council and
Kaufman.
people online know who you are.
My name is Ryan Kaufman. I'm the municipal manager for Eastern Montana, which includes the Red Lodge contract. Chad Bauer has no longer been with the company for about 3 years in this capacity, so it's been.
And I knew it was you, Ryan. I
no, you're
apologize
okay.
for that. I'm adopted.
So the list or the idea that you guys have these customers that have this issue, I don't have that list, and I've never been given that list. However, it doesn't matter because we'll take care of it. Now we have 2 different kinds of containers, not just 2 different sizes of containers, 2 different manufacturers of containers. The part that you guys care about is IGBC, which is Interagency Grizzly Bear Coalition, which is the board that approved the containers that you guys like. Toter has also made one, so we will use those 2 containers. There's a big difference. There's one that looks like a latch that goes under a hood that you unlatch.
That's the Kodiak.
That's the Kodiak that everyone has. And the other one is the Toter that you squeeze with your thumb and your index finger, and it lifts up. Now, we will fix them and we will get them out of there. That doesn't say that the customers or the residents don't pull them out themselves, because they do.
Yeah.
We all know that, right?
Mm.
So we'll have to work together on that, and we'll get them taken care of. But again, I don't have that list, so I can't get them swapped out. We have 400 containers and another couple sitting there, or or another couple hundred boxes of latches, and we will get them, upon request that when we need to do that. So, yeah. And then as far as different size containers, yes, you're absolutely right. We held off on getting any size containers, or the 65 or 64 gallon, IGBC containers until we got this done, because I didn't want to get something and then not eat them.
Yeah.
So,
Ryan, if you'll stay there for a minute,
Yep.
and Councilmember Root, if you give me just a second to highlight one more thing, and then we'll come
Yeah.
back.
sounds good.
So after 413, which is the bear-resistant containers, and yes, we'll get them fixed in a timely manner, and I will work to coordinate Ryan and Mike to make sure that he does get that list, is 415, which is a mixed schedule of services. So if they've missed it, they have 2 days to come up, but that is basically the rate of a cost per service per day. So basically, again, there's a performance clause in there
Yeah.
that says they'll get it taken care of. The other thing that I will call out, I think it was there, additional cans are available. You will recall that the city recently passed an ordinance that says if there's litter, there's a $100 fine. The hope and the theory there is that happens, if somebody has overstuffed the cans or not closing it, that is a city responsibility to issue that. There was a comment that was brought up in standing committee about just not picking up cans that the lids were overfull and didn't fit, and I said, no, please, that doesn't get us to public health and safety. But that $100 fine, I think, will encourage people to get the extra cart, which is $19.95. That's a negotiated rate. That's significantly cheaper than what they would pay. Do you know off the top of your head what people outside city limits are paying for garbage service for a can?
Yep.
57.
Okay, so $20 is a good deal by the factor they're negotiated. So those are the call outs and changes that I would emphasize in that. And then, like I said, I know Mike has an interest in making sure that we basically get to zero before this goes into place to get those other cans. We have a commitment from Ryan here tonight that they'll help us work with that. And again, it doesn't matter if they are replacing the cassettes and Kodiak cans or replacing them with toter. And in conversations I've had with Ryan, part of that is they have the same frustration with Kodiak in service and fulfillment too. And so they opened up to look at other IGBC containers that were available.
And that was the reason why we, not only because of cost, so Kodiak containers are about $100 more per container than they are for toter, but just the availability to get parts and get them swapped out. Having two different kinds of vendors just makes us more pliable and adaptable for you guys to get you guys taken care of sooner, which was what our intent was the entire time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And then the other major, sorry, go ahead.
No, Ryan, do the drivers have cassettes on board?
We, yes and no. We want to empower our drivers to be able to take care of the containers on a timely basis. We also want to make sure that our drivers are efficient in doing what they're doing while they're here. We also have a container driver that is here 3 days a week. A container guy that swaps out containers, that can go get misses if we need to do that. We've robustly increased our labor force to take care of service issues like that. Would I like our drivers to be able to do that? I think that's a better use of their time to continue to move on to get customers taken care of.
Yeah.
They have the ability to call them in immediately via Samsara. There's nothing that isn't caught on video by their in the trucks. We have a Samsara camera that takes care of everything. So containers that aren't closed or overfilled, we can help validate that with the city and say, yes, that is in fact the case. Or did we miss this container, right? There's a lot of questions of, or have we missed this person? And the ability to hold us accountable while holding the residents accountable happens all the time now. So it works for everything. Yes, we will take care of you quickly, yeah.
There are some limitations in those. For instance, I know a neighbor that they pulled the cassette out because it wasn't working, and it was actually, and you and I have chatted about this specific one, they're not going to pick that up on the camera because they flip it upside down and it opens.
Yep.
And they don't.
And we're never going to know that.
Yeah,
So
and
that's the relationship between the city and us to also go back and check them, and they're putting stickers on them that help denote which ones are which. But we aren't going to know that because if we service it with a side load, then we aren't going to know that. So places like the country club, we're never going to, or that area up there, we are never going to know that because it's designed so that it automatically tips when the weight shifts onto the lid. So we won't know that. Now, if it's a rear load, meaning that we take it to the back of the truck and
You'll
service
notice
it that
it,
way,
yeah.
then we will, because we have to unlock it.
What is the level of effort? Is it a possibility for you to provide to the city a list of the overfilled cans that were not closed before they get there? Is that something that's doable, or is that a higher level of it? Because we can go through and find those people
We
for
would
doing
have
that, but.
to turn on overages. So we would have to turn on overages for the city. I currently have that function turned off. We could turn that on. I would have to watch that pretty carefully to make sure that the city doesn't get charged something. But that does happen. We do have that on the commercial side of the business. I don't know if we have that on the residential side of the business, so I can't answer that.
Okay, I guess what I will relay on is if the drivers notice a trend, I'm thinking of like one particular house up there that is changing hands, so that won't be a factor. But like I said, if they will let us know of gross not doing it, then we will act accordingly on that.
Yeah, if it's a priority of the city and the city is going to echo that, then I will make it a priority for our drivers to make sure that we're relaying that. They can call it right.
And as you know, we're happy to help with this, and I know Mike has some extra cans up there and stuff too. There was some initial resistance for him to say, we don't want to help because that's what we pay them to do.
Yep.
But at the same time, we're willing to help to get us
that's been
to a zero spot.
A change from past relationships, and I have worked with Mike in a different capacity where he was previous to this, and he's definitely willing to work with us, and I'm willing to work with him. So we will get you guys, if we say we have 30 carts and we need to get you guys more or drop off some more, because he's picked up latches from me before, I can get him more latches and do that.
Yeah, the 6 you gave him last time were gone in 24 hours, so.
That was before I understood that there was 160 carts that were not functioning correctly and or were tampered with.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the issue that I need to work with the city on is that tampering with
And we do log those separately. We
Okay.
do have the ability to log those, like, it's not closed, but it's not the can's fault.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
we
I think
got
the
that.
toters one, of course, that's not going to be an issue with, but the Kodiak ones, that will be an issue with, so.
To the table, are there any other questions for Ryan? Because the goal, guys, is to have this contract forward for execution or authorization to execute at the next meeting. So if there's any questions, Ryan's here today to help address those, and then we've got 2 weeks to get them addressed before we take action.
We will provide the annual cleanup twice a year like that we always have.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
When is that? Yeah, when are we doing that?
That also includes some electronic stuff that I didn't previously realize it actually did, in my predecessor that did that. And then the second half of that, that's even more important, or I guess not as equally important, is that we provide scholarships to the high school,
Oh, yeah.
every year. So, that's one thing I want echoed out. It's important.
How are you advertising that?
I don't. So at the end of the year, I work with the school directly on that. I ask them to submit the scholarships, and we kind of tailor it towards what we're looking for.
The school they submit a very lengthy list of scholarships available.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and it's usually like every year the seniors and the families get it, and it is a substantial list, which
Okay,
is pretty.
good, thank you.
I'm excited to get smaller carts out to you guys. It's been a request for a long time, so.
And I will say that of the smaller carts, the Kodiaks, those are a nightmare. Every time, to open those.
The toter ones I think are gonna be, a little bit better. None of, I guess, let's be clear, like, none of them are 100% perfect, right? They always have their little quirks and their issues, but it's fine.
Yeah, I don't have problems with the big Kodiaks, but the small Kodiaks are smarter than me, and I have to Google them and then still get a flashlight and fold myself over sideways. And so as I look with a lot of the elderly people that have those smaller ones, I was like, oh, here we go.
Well, you might know someone that can help you out. So.
Yeah.
See if we can get you a toter, yeah.
I get there, I just have to, yeah.
You're
All right. Any other questions for Ryan?
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, thank you for making the trip down here, and Mike will be back in town on Thursday. Let's coordinate to get that, like, and we're happy to help.
Okay.
Get us to that point.
Okay.
Especially now,
Right.
yeah.
So that'll show up on the agenda in 2 weeks?
That'll be for action, and I don't know that you need to be here for that.
Oh, I'll be here.
That's,
Okay,
pardon?
Thank you.
I'll be here.
Yeah, you can, or if schedule changes and you want to be here remote, that's fine too.
Okay.
I think we're good. Any other questions for Ryan from the table? All right, and when it does come up for action, there may be questions from the public, so good thing there. So, looking at the count, we will plan on moving the FAA entitlements and the Republic Services contract forward for action. The fire district is still going to be a discussion and an ongoing, that's nowhere near close for action, nor was it expected to be.
Right.
All right, any other questions for Public Works? Or did you have more that you wanted to talk about?
We're good.
Any other questions for Public Works? All right. With that, let's go to correspondence. Anything that anybody from council would like to bring up for correspondence? Councilmember Tupin, I see your hand.
Dan, who is here in the room, did reach out specifically about, the First Street curb and gutters, which has been an ongoing issue for 15 years now, it feels like?
Yep.
Yep. And it sounds like that has been resolved.
It will be resolved and be taken care of this construction season.
Okay. So I just wanted to be sure that was addressed and set out
I
loud.
included you on that response, right? I think that response was to you? Yeah. Okay.
Okey-doke. Just want to be sure. I was like, I could have swore we had this conversation last summer and it was supposed to be resolved, and
Yours or mine?
I thought it was
I hear a lot of it's gonna be resolved, and anyway, just want to mention that. The other thing, I did get, some correspondence from the adjacent landowner for the park, or the trail, just voicing some of those concerns about damage to the sides, the wetlands in particular. I know that that's a pretty delicate hillside there. That being said, I'm actually really hoping that the trail helps establish some structure and infrastructure within that hillside. But again, I don't know, I'm not an engineer. I look forward to the conversation. But did want to make mention that that was brought to my attention.
Councilmember Tupin, do you mind if I add something to that?
Sure.
One of the things that will happen from a city, and I'll use another like situation that came up, there was a private road over in Island at Rock Creek that is part of their subdivision in the private road. And there was a discussion about making that a city road, the city taking ownership of that. There's a couple of advantages for the city in that it would give us an easy way to address sewer and water issues that are over there. There's an advantage for those guys in that it opens up the possibility of federal funding to replace a bridge that got wiped out from the flood, or grants or something that municipalities have access to that residents do not. However, before we get to that spot, and I think this is kind of where it stopped, one of the things that happens is that the city, who our experts are, AKA Public Works in this situation, brings in an expert and basically says, make sure that the city is not taking on a liability. So I know we had several letters that were concerned, like, is there going to be hill? Is there going to be runoff? Is there going to be weeping? We will get a professional sign-off that will come and offer that opinion for council, because the city is not interested in absorbing any liabilities.
Right. Yeah.
So like I said, I think those are valid questions and concerns.
Yeah.
But no, before council is asked to make a decision, Public Works will come and make a presentation and say, we think it's not a concern because this professional opinion or that professional opinion.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Tupin, you still have the floor.
Thank you. I did also receive another letter in opposition of putting the ice skating rink in at Lions Park and wanting it up at Brewery Hill, but also in support of the trail system.
Did you forward that on to Lonnie for the
I
packet?
I think Lonnie got it and sent it to me. It came from Civic.
Will you
Yeah.
make sure to forward it on for
Make
inclusion
sure
in the
that-
packet just to cover the bases? And that kind of goes for anybody if you get correspondence.
Jack Lackey. Anyway, I'll forward it.
You live on Jack Lackey Lane?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
That being said, I'll send it over. Anyway, that was all the correspondence that I had received. Continue.
Councilmember Davis, I saw your hand.
Oh, I just want to ask you.
Will you ask out loud so everybody can hear, please?
Private conversation.
Sunshine,
I didn't know
sunshine.
if I should,
Yeah.
was that correspondence from Millie?
Yes.
That you included?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure, because I get that email today, and I wasn't
Yep.
sure if that's who you were referring to.
Yep, that-
And it'll be in the packet probably next week, right? Or next
In
meeting?
next packet,
Yeah.
yeah.
Next packet. Okay, I just want to make sure hers was covered. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Councilmember? Any other correspondence? from anybody at the table?
Apparently Ward 1 gets all the fun stuff.
It's the action.
Yeah, we have a really cool ward.
All right. With that, what I will do is I will go ahead and, this brings us to public comment at the end of the meeting. Same rules apply. I'm going to, in just a moment, I'm going to open the public comment. If everyone in the chamber will respect those at the table and be quiet for those speakers. If you'd start by stating your name and we'll go from there.
Hope Smith, 517 North Hauser. I realize you turn into pumpkins here in a minute, but I know you're doing the PIR for the ice skating rink, and I appreciate the fact that you are and you're looking into it and getting all the facts you need. I especially appreciated Seth Decker's letter in your packet this week, and I'd like for you to consider that in addition to all the information you're going to get from the experts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hope. That gets to be my job. All right, looking for public comment in the room. Please step forward.
Peppermint.
Steve Smith, 517 North Hauser. I have two things to bring up, and one is for the mayor. Only for the mayor.
No?
I've heard you comment several times, and now in public. You made the comment when you said something you didn't like, or you thought maybe you would retract, that I'm adopted.
Oh.
I find that very offensive.
Okay.
You to say something like that.
All right. Thank you.
It denigrates people you're denigrating people, not only yourself, but everybody else that's adopted. I think that's very coarse and very, I don't know, it's despicable.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Second thing is, back to the ice rink. The Resort Tax Board is going to come to you with recommendations. And that is going to be what percentage of the monies that's in the resort tax fund is going to go for what items. And I know that in 25-26, I believe the amount for the ice rink was $400,000. And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, they're talking about another chunk of money for 26-27 from the resort tax to go to the ice rink. And we just heard a conversation about how the fire department would like some more funds, and a good source for that would be the resort tax fund. And I think Tom said something around 10%. And I'd just like you to consider, when it finally does come to you, that amount that could go to the fire department and fire funds, it's about the same amount roughly as they're requesting to go toward the ice rink. It seems to me that the fire department is a much better source of resort tax funds than an improved ice rink.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Steve. All right, anyone else in the room?
Dan Drobny, 1000 Coots Avenue. First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council folks, for all that you folks do. I have been, Ms. Tupin, Councilperson Tupin, working on this for about 15 years. We found the MOU that was the golden ticket that's going to get this working. But there were two other issues with emails that I had sent out. One is there's improper compaction when our road, Coots Avenue North from First Street up towards Family Dollar. It's 1009 and 1013. There's a big dip, and I've got a petition signed by some of our residents there that there's a big pool of water when it's warm and ice when it's not, and some of those folks think that's a safety concern. So I'd like to hand this to you, Mr. Mayor, and then you can...
If you please hand that to Lonnie.
Oh, sure.
We'll get that entered into the record.
All righty. The other thing was when the curb was re-poured against the sidewalk on North Hauser, which was Mountain Springs Villa phase number 1, it left a big pad of gravel. I mean, it was probably about a 3-4 foot swath of gravel. Now, I know that In other parts of town, you've got pavement and a lot of gravel. If there's ever any spare asphalt, I would please ask that it go towards North Hauser between First and Second Streets. And lastly, I would be happy to serve as a point of contact for Mr. Mike, the Public Works fellow, any council people. If you have questions, I'm happy to give tours. Anyway, you've got my number, Mr. Mayor, and you guys do. So please, POC, when stuff gets happening, you need some questions answered from a local, I'm there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. All right, anybody else in the room who would like to address council? Seeing no activity in council, let me look to online. I'm looking for hands or microphones. Second call for public comment. Third call for public comment. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. I would also like to extend my personal thank you to all of you who've come to the meeting and joined and sat here. I think it's great when people come and be involved. We get to better solutions with lots of different ideas coming into the pool, so thank you all. And with that, Jeremy, would you care to make a motion regarding number 13?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.
That's what I'm saying. I could never figure it out.